Today, I'm joined by the inspiring Kasi Reid, founder of Flo and Thrive, single mum, menstrual health mentor, and someone living with PMDD. Casey's all about helping women move from burnout and frustration to flow, clarity, and self connection. Through coaching, mentorship, and her self care tools, she's showing us how powerful it can be to live in sync with our cycles, even in the messiest times. So let's get into it. Welcome, Casey. So nice to have you on the call. We got introduced by a mutual, and we had a conversation a few weeks ago, and I came away from the call just so refreshed. You are such a ray of sunshine. So yeah, thank you so much for joining this episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. Very excited. I love what you're doing. So yeah.
I love what you're doing too, and we'll definitely learn a little bit more about what you are doing in this episode. But firstly, I always start the episodes off by asking, how would you describe PMDD?
Gosh, I would probably describe PMDD how a lot of people describe depression. I very much used to feel like I remember seeing a therapist for a while when I was in the kind of phases of not having a clue what was going on. And she gave me a book called The Black Dog. I think it was called The Black Dog. Yeah, it was called The Black Dog. And it's basically how the black dog turns up and, when you kind of get out of bed and then the black dog's on the floor and you suddenly realize, oh, it's going to be one of those days. And that is when I read it, I just thought, oh my goodness, this is how I feel all the time, well, every month. And it was just that perfect description of that black cloud, black dog that was just over. As soon as I'd open my eyes, I just knew that it would be there. I knew how the next few days would be panning out, and I'd kind of be on a countdown clock anyway, to the luteal phase. Well, no, not to the luteal phase, because it was probably before I even knew that. And then obviously when I did start to realize what it was, it probably was then the luteal phase. But it was just when I didn't have a clue what was going on, it would just be like, oh my God, like it's come again. Here's that black cloud. And then, yeah, when I realised that it was PMDD, it was very much like, yeah, this is, it's here again, the black dog, the black cloud, just, yeah, absolute dread. But yeah, when I read that book, it's only a kind of little flip book, and I just thought, oh my goodness, that is the perfect description of this kind of, and even with the brain fog and everything, it was just like, oh God, yeah, this is exactly how I feel. It's just that thing kind of coming over and ready to fucking attack my day, basically.
Yeah, that's such an interesting way to describe it. I always describe it as like an unwelcome visitor, but that really encapsulates it well. And the fact that you said you know it's going to be there even before you open your eyes, like you do, you just feel it, don't you, as soon as you wake up. So yeah, that describes it perfectly. I feel like PMDD affects everyone differently, but that really like encapsulates it so well. But let's start with your journey then. Start at the beginning of your journey. What did your PMDD journey look like? How did you come
Yeah.
to understand, what was happening with your body and mind?
Yeah, so I think for me it was definitely depression, a kind of depression. It was really, really low mood. Um, Dependent on how probably the cycles before had gone, it was very suicidal ideation was big and quite rife. I would be really snappy. Okay, so irritability, depression, suicidal ideation, um, and just yeah, couldn't sleep. My thing was I couldn't sleep either. And I think that was part of probably depression and anxiety as well. It's like I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and then my brain would just be going over and over and over and over, and then obviously I couldn't go back to sleep. And then the next day, the snappiness and the irritability would kick in, and that would definitely be rife with my son. That's what I hated the most, was that I was just so irritable. I mean, patience was minimal. I had no patience for anything or anybody. Yeah, it was awful. Looking back, actually, it was just bloody awful. And we'll get into my story a little bit more, but I haven't had those symptoms for a very long time. And even just going back to that place, it makes me feel it's like makes me feel physically sick. So I just think I was I just I wasn't the mum that I was. To be honest, I didn't care. I didn't care about work. I didn't care about anything else. Everybody else was kind of null and void. They didn't matter. I just wanted to be the good mom, a good mom, or the mom that I wanted to always be. And I wasn't able to be that. I physically could not turn up in motherhood the way that I really wanted to. And that would cripple me. That would kill me. God, every day. I would go to sleep every day. And that's where the kind of suicidal thoughts would come in, because I would just really convince myself that he would be better off without me, because I was a fucking shit, vile, horrible mum all day, and I'd not done what I wanted to do and not done what I needed to do, and I wasn't able to be there for him the way he needed me. And oh God, I was horrible to myself. Horrible to, yeah. So yeah, that's how it showed up with me. There was kind of really typical textbook PMDD with just that negative self-talk, no, zero self-compassion, no giving myself a bit of a break. Like, absolutely not. Like, you show up perfectly or you're the biggest failure in the world. That was, that was how I would talk to myself. And especially when it came to being a mom.
Yeah. The last time we spoke as well, we talked about your son, and we talked about the struggles as not only a parent but a single parent, and that, and even just you talking then about it just really moves me, because I can barely cope with PMDD on my own, so let alone with a child as well. And I can just tell you right now, you are a better mum than you think you are, because the fact that you're getting through this every single month, you're staying every single month, and you're worried about being the best mum you can be, shows how much of a good mum you actually are. But just talk to me about, being a single parent and the struggles, and how PMDD massively impacts your parenting experience.
Yeah, it was awful. It was just so hard. And, I think there's additional needs there with my son as well. So he had, he would go through things of, he would experience anxiety. And it's funny, actually, even me just saying this out loud, he would experience a lot of anxiety about going to school, but he hasn't actually experienced, he hasn't, very recently, he's kind of not had that. And I think, oh, is that actually because I've not also, doesn't coincide, but especially more so recently, is very much, I haven't been experiencing PMDD symptoms much really for the last year, I would say. But again, we'll kind of get into that. But his, at the time when I was really kind of experiencing it month on month, and my anxiety was through the roof, and probably my nervous system was not regulated at all, he would get really bad anxiety. So he'd get really bad anxiety about going into school, really bad anxiety about just leaving me in general. And I would never have these kind of conversations in, or, with him even close by, because I just would never want him to even think that I was anything but fine, which is probably not a good thing either. But yeah, I think that at the time, I just felt like he needs me so much, because he was going through this time where he was really anxious around school, and it was about, we at the time got a diagnosis. He had dyslexia, so he had this whole thing going on, and majority of the time I could hold it all together. But then when those symptoms came in, I just couldn't. So, I would drop him into school and try and be the caring mom that I know that he needed, and the patient mom and all that kind of thing. But then, in the back of my head, it's like, I've got to get to work and someone's waiting on me. And it's like, then the irritability would come in. It's like, please, just please just go in. Like, I don't need this today. And then obviously he doesn't need that. He needs compassion. He needs kindness. He needs slowness. He needs patience. And then I would sit in the car, and all the way home, then I'd just phone my mum, just like in absolute bits, going, I'm just the worst mum ever. What's the point of me even being here? Because I can't even be there for him. So that was awful. Like I said, I can deal with not being the daughter, that was hard, but, like not being the daughter that I wanted to be. I know my mum would always forgive me. My friends, I probably wasn't the best friend that I could be, but I know they're adults and they can kind of understand. But this little boy who was, symptoms started probably when he was 6, 7 years old. And he can't understand why I, it probably wasn't even as bad as I think it was, but in my head, I was this fucking monster, like absolute impatient, irritable, vile person who was just like no fun, just awful. And he can't understand why I cry all the time, and why sometimes I can't get out of bed. And that's how it would show up. It would show up like I'd have to lean on my mum a lot for her to do the school runs, because again, if I wake up in that black clouds over there, the thought of getting him ready and going on the school run and having to have the face to be okay with the mums, and, like talking to the people at the school gates, and even being all right for him, was just too much for me to even think about, as well as me being able to get through the day. So I'd have to lean on her a lot. And even bedtime routine and stuff, I was so exhausted because I hadn't slept. I was so exhausted come like 6, 7 o'clock. Making food for him, I'm very lucky that my mum helped me out so much because I couldn't function. I actually couldn't function because I think, again, when I was working, I was just keeping it together to make sure that I had a job still. And in between the times I was being signed off sick, so it was just, I probably, like you kind of demonize something, don't you? And you make something quite big. I was the worst person on the planet. Looking back now, I probably wasn't. But how it felt was that I was just the worst
Yeah.
mom ever. Yeah.
And when you're in that moment as well, there's nothing that can change your mind about how you feel about yourself. Like that is fact. And so whilst I can say like you probably weren't the worst mum in the world, like that's how you felt at the time, and it's so hard to change that. And I know we'll go on to sort of your journey with PMDD, but you mentioned that you couldn't really talk to your son at the time about it. Does your son know about PMDD? How did you talk about it? If you did, how did he
Yeah.
know that you were going through a difficult time?
I didn't label it PMDD at all, and I didn't label it any kind of anxiety, depression. It was very much like, I'm going to have a really open and honest conversation with you. Sometimes mummy really struggles, and I struggle with the day-to-day things that otherwise seem quite easy to do. So even things like making your dinner, picking up after you, like he always has this thing where he strips off all of his uniform and just drops it wherever he is standing at that moment. So it's like things like that I find really extra overwhelming, as well as all of the things that mummy has to do day to day. So I really need your support. And I really need your support anyway, and doing things like that. But particularly in certain times, I'm going to really need your support. And I'll ask you, and I'll be honest with you, when I need that help, and when mummy needs a little bit more patience, and also mummy needs a little bit more like grace in a way. Like if I snap, I am so sorry, and I'll always apologize to you. I always say I'm no adult is too big and bad enough to not apologize to anybody. So I'll always apologize to you because I know that I'm not always going to show up in the way that I want to even show up. And you might think that I'm not showing up in the way that you want me to show up, and that's okay. And I want us to have like a really honest conversation about that. And yeah, at the start, he was a little bit young, but I think definitely over the last couple of years, we've had really big conversations about mental health, and especially him having, the anxiety that he has. We've had to have conversations because he's need to kind of introduce coping mechanisms for himself as well. So yeah, we've talked lots, and for him it shows up in very physical symptoms. And I said, whereas you feel really sick and your stomach feels really butterflies, and like sometimes you can feel it in your chest, mummy's feelings aren't necessarily physical, like that physical feeling. Mummy's feelings are like in her brain, and it feels very like worry, and it feels very cloudy, like those kind of that kind of terminology. But I just think it's really important, I think, and we have to see PMDD as a mental health condition, right? I feel like it's not given it the severity that it should do because it's menstrual cycle related. And I hate the fact that, like often it just feels like it's not that serious because it's to do with your period. And obviously I'm already, I can't stand that a menstrual cycle is just the period. But anyway, that's a whole different subject. But I think that it feels like it's not, like, I don't know, even depression, bipolar disorder, all those kind of things are quite like, wow. Oh, if I said to someone, I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, for example, I can imagine them go, oh my goodness, okay, like PMDD just doesn't it's almost like it's not serious enough for people to understand, and I think that that's what we need to see it as. So the same kind of conversations we have about mental health, especially with kids, it should be the same with regards to PMDD, because I just think it's so important for them to understand that just because you don't see something, and just because mummy physically looks together and I can hold it together a lot of the time, sometimes everything just feels too much and I need a break. And sometimes that means, when mummy needs a break, for me, which I'll get onto, I found that isolation was a big thing for me. I need to be by myself. I need to, whether that just be in my own head or just physically be by myself to escape. Sometimes it's in an audiobook, sometimes it's in a film, I don't know. But mummy needs to be by herself. So I never want you to think that that's because of you. So sometimes nanny might help out putting you to bed, giving you a bath, making your dinner, and mummy might be upstairs. That is just simply because I like some time by myself sometimes. And, you know, like, and if we were in a more traditional household where there was a mummy and a daddy, you probably wouldn't notice that as much, but just because it's mummy, you might notice it a little bit more. But I just want you to know it's never a reflection on you. It's just because mummy needs a little bit of time by herself. And that's fine, right? You know, like you sometimes don't like talking all the time, and that's perfect. That's okay. So I think it's just being really honest, because I think that they obviously honest within reason. I don't want him to ever feel like he needs to take on my troubles, but I think he also needs to be aware that I'm not perfect. And that's all right, because I don't want him to think that I'm this perfect being, and then him, I don't know, judge himself or judge other women off the back of what he thinks I am or I'm not, you know. And I don't think that's healthy either.
I think it's a really brave thing to do, to be able to talk to your child about what you're going through, because I think, and you kind of touched on it before, you want to be this role model. You want to be someone who is fine all the time because, you know, you're in control and you're in charge. But actually, I think the fact that you're being vulnerable with him and you're opening up a conversation about how you're feeling is a really brave thing to do, and a really great thing to do too, because then that allows him to open up, and that allows him to be educated on a topic that people should know about anyway. And the earlier they know about it, the better. So the younger they learn these things, the better. But it's given him the space as well to feel able to talk about emotions, express emotions, and just understand his own emotions as well. So having that is a role model to me. So I think it's a really difficult thing to do, but I think, you know, it can only reap benefits. So well done you for sort of having that conversation.
Thank you.
And for a single parent, or just a parent with PMDD who's listening to this and they're really struggling with it, what advice would you give to them?
So, as part of the work that I now do, I always say arm yourself with a toolkit. So, again, we'll probably talk about it more later, but my biggest thing is arm yourself. Arm yourself with as much things that support you as possible. Because my thing, again, and sometimes it can take a bit of understanding of, okay, what is that and what does that look like? And that's going to be really personal, right? But for me, it was definitely when I was on that journey, and when I decided, okay, I don't want to go down the medication, I don't want antidepressants, I don't want anti-anxiety medication, made that decision, okay, so I need to work out now how I'm going to help myself, because equally I can't carry on like this. So for me, it was very much what then supports me, what will support me, what will make sure that again, I never dreamt that this kind of would go away, but what can I do just to make things a little bit easier for me? And again, my thing was, I need to be by myself. I need to make sure that I am looking after me and doing the things that really fill up my cup. You know, like, it's probably what all women should do, but we just don't. But, you know, like that, what gives me energy? I always say, what drains your energy? What gives me energy? In PMDD, a lot drained my energy, actually. And it would take, you know, very minimal for me to completely be dead, battery dead, I'm completely gone. So what would I need to do to fill that back up, top that back up? And again, for me, it was definitely isolation. It was lots of early nights and sleep, making sure that my sleep was perfect, in the sense of that I'm having a proper downtime, bedtime routine, which is why often I would say to my son, this is going to be my routine. This is going to be my bedtime routine. I'm going to, you know, like, start winding down at this time. So if you want to come up with me, absolutely fine. If not, Nanny's going to need to help. You know, Nanny will put you to bed. And sometimes you go, yeah, right then, or you get into bed with me, you know, like something like that. Or he would be, yeah, all right, Nan can put me to bed then. But for me, it was definitely, I could kind of, if I'd had a good night the night before, I could kind of get through the next day, early on in the day, especially with him, you know, like, because obviously he's at school all day, so it wasn't too bad. So yeah, I could definitely kind of get through that school run, be super patient, and then work would just be work. But yeah, it was that I'm going to have a nice bath, magnesium bath. I'm going to take, I took supplements of magnesium as well. And then I'm going to, no phones, no screens for a certain time. I'm going to journal. I really lent on gratitude because it's that thing of, I can't see the wood for the trees when I'm in PM. I really can't. And there's minimal things to feel grateful for. So if I force myself to look for something that I'm grateful for, and often that was, listing all the people that I know love me, like things like that. And it's like, you're
Yeah.
so worth being here. I
Yeah.
needed reminders of that. So it's like, oh my God, your mum does, look at all the, it's that again, looking for proof as well. Look at all the things that prove that your mum loves you. Look at all the things that proves that your son loves you and needs you. Look at all the things, like my best friend Magda. Look at all the things that prove Magda loves you and she would never want to be without you. Like those kind of things. And oh my God, look at all the people that would be affected by you not being here. So it's like, I was that deep in it sometimes. I just needed a reminder of like, you are worth being here. And look at, this is not just about you. This is a bigger thing. And this, again, that saying of like, this too shall pass. It will be fine. Let's just get through this and let's do what we need to do to get through it. So I did massively lean on, and self-care. So I loved a bath. I always say, people joke, I've just finished a program and they all laughed at me because I was like, the thing that makes me so happy is having a fresh bed, clean linen on my bed I've got some favorite pajamas that are like the white crisp linen pajamas that have been ironed. I know, on my white crisp linen bed, having a lovely bath with like essential oils in, with bath salt, with magnesium bath salts
That
in.
sounds stunning.
I know, with my candle, like things like that, with my lovely pillow spray and my candle in my room. And my windows have been open all day, so it's quite cold in my room, like things like that. Having that set up and then knowing that it's like, oh, I've got that to look forward to tonight. And then when I get into bed, doing my gratitude, I'm going to bed almost on a high. So regardless of what's happened with like the PMDD symptoms that have probably been sneaking in throughout the day, I know that I've, I'm ending the day on an amazing high. And I know that and I did that. I used to do that every day. Like sometimes I would do it every single day and over the weekends, everything. It's like, no, this is the only thing that I can look forward to and that brings me true peace and true happiness. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it as often as I can. I used to buy, like, I've got massive 10-kilogram tubs of magnesium bath plates because it's just like, it was just part of that thing. It is that thing of like, I know this is what's going to make me feel better. This is what's going to make me feel better. Doing that more and more. So yeah, I always very much say arm yourself with that toolkit of what fills up your cup and what tops up your energy. And I think a massive thing is reminding yourself how needed you really are. I think that's a huge one, because when you're in those depths, it's really easy to forget, isn't it? Like how needed you are, regardless of even if you've got a kid and someone very obviously dependent on you. It still sometimes felt like he would still be better off without me. But remembering, that I'm gonna prove and I'm gonna physically write down all the things that falsify those thoughts and make those thoughts, as a reminder that none of that is true. I need reminding that none of that is true.
I think that's a really, really nice idea. And I think so important as well, because so many people with PMDD, when you're in the depths of PMDD and depression, you don't want to be here anymore, and you can't see why there would be point in being here anymore. Whereas if you make this list, and maybe you make it outside of the luteal phase when you feel like of people who love you, of reasons why they love you and what the impact that you're making on their life, like you've just said, that's going to be a game changer. Just the one thing that you need to read when you are feeling the way you're feeling. So I love that. That's a really, really good piece of advice.
I think looking for the good in the day, looking for, like, you will always find good in the day. Like, I would have a shit day at work and everything else, but I'd be like, Grayson went into school today. My son went into school without crying. That was a fucking win. You know what I mean? And that you can, I always think that it is really fucking hard, but I'm sure you can find one thing. And even if it is, I've had a bath and that bath was lovely. That's it. Or I fucking got out of bed and I brushed my teeth today. What a win.
100%.
I brushed my teeth.
And that is a win.
Oh God, when I was really low, washing my hair, I remember actually going around to my friend's house and just not having zero energy and just saying, I don't know, I haven't washed my hair for like 3 weeks. I don't know. I can't even think about doing it. And she was like, fucking stick your head over the sink. I'll wash and blow dry your hair now. And I'm like, that's what a good friend is. And the kid, she's got kids as well, the same age as my son. So all the kids were playing and she washed my hair in the kitchen sink, blow dried it. And it's like, And again, I put that on my gratitude list every day for 10 days because it's like, it's too hard for me to think about anything else. But you know what I'm really grateful for? The fact that I had my hair washed 3 days ago
Yeah.
and it's washed and I don't need to think about it now for another week. No,
I love that. But
yeah,
it's huge. And I think you're so right. Like the tiny, tiny wins are actually huge. I don't journal, but I really want to get into it, especially after speaking to you. But I've always heard about the benefits of it and do want to get into it because I think, especially if you do it daily, then
yeah.
you're really building up that routine where like you're trying to find those tiny wins of the day. And I think it really is just a case of like sometimes getting yourself out of bed, brushing your hair, brushing your teeth, getting changed, wearing nice pajamas, your favorite pajamas. It's little things like that that just add up and make a huge difference. And if you practice that gratitude every day, I think it really does have a long-term effect. So yeah, I'm definitely going to start trying that. And I know you're very much an advocate for working with your cycle rather than feeling like you just have to push through it every month. How has cyclical living changed your life?
I think that has saved my life. And this is what
Wow.
it really frustrates. It doesn't frustrate. Well, yeah, no, it does frustrate me when people, I mean, still now, I was at a talk last week and when I talk about the things that I do and people go, oh my God, that just feels like it's another thing to think about. And I'm like,
Wow.
it's getting to know yourself. Like what? And yeah. With the other people that we were talking about, I was in amongst a panel with nutritionists as well. And I wanted to go, what they're saying feels like it's another thing to my to-do list. What this is not going anywhere. You know, this is some, you know, our menstrual cycle stays with us for a very, very long time. And if it's not our
Mhm.
menstrual cycle, it's menopause, right? So we need to create that connection. And it blows my mind a little bit, if I'm honest, that people don't know more about this. But I suppose it's easier when coming from a place where I already semi know what to do. But yeah, I genuinely say, and this is hand on heart, it saved my life because I think that what happened is, and first of all, understanding my cycle and then understanding how my body reacts to my cycle. Create Literally, the shift was virtually overnight of the
Wow.
mind body connection. And I think that's what it is with when we understand what our body goes through instantly. I mean, when I say self-compassion, self-compassion was like, oh my God. I remember writing in my journal going, oh my God, I am fucking livid. I am fuming that I've not known about this before because it just instantly made me feel like, Jesus, Casey, no wonder you don't feel the same every day. No wonder it's coming out like this. And because you're pushing and pushing and pushing against yourself, your body, your hormones every day. No wonder you don't feel all right 100% of the time, like maybe males around you do. That's all right. And I think that as soon as self-compassion came into play, then that, you know, like that self-compassion and just going, okay, sometimes I just need a little bit of time for me and the ripple effect of being kinder to myself was what I would hand on heart say stops me now from getting those PMDD symptoms because
Wow.
what it creates is you saying to yourself, I deserve this, I deserve X, Y, and Z. And as soon as we get into that state of I deserve, I am okay asking for help, I am okay asking for support, I am okay, you know, like taking my foot off the accelerator a little bit, I am okay going, can you look after my son tonight? I'm not a failure, I just need support, I just need help.
Yeah.
And that instantly makes my nervous system feel safer, better, more regulated. And then it's just them doing that regularly and that becoming a habit of checking in with yourself and going, all right, what do you need today? Because you asking yourself what you need is not you being selfish. You asking yourself what you need is an absolute necessity. You know, like you need to ask yourself what you need. You deserve to be okay as well as all the people around you that you know, doing everything for. And I don't think I would have got to that without understanding my menstrual cycle, because I think that it just makes you understand all the things that your body's going through. And so to me, it was just like one of the same, like, oh my God, yeah, like this is why I feel like it was like this kind of massive, like if a physical light bulb could have gone on top of my head, it
Yeah.
was like doing this research. It's like, oh shit, that it all makes sense now. Everything makes sense. I am pushing against my body, and not I'm pushing against my body every day. I've been pushing against my body since I was fucking 12 years old, and I'm now 30. At the time, I was 33. Like, Jesus, no wonder you feel like shit. I'm surprised it hasn't happened before now, like, so, okay, so what you need to do is stop and let's be a bit kinder to yourself, because you've been going through a lot. Your body's been going through a lot, and you've just been pushing through, and, like, being that kind of masculine energy of getting up at the same time every single day and push, and then going to, like, then going to sleep. And then, obviously there was years where I was having late nights and I was drinking and I was doing, all those things that I probably shouldn't have been doing, because I'm all for having fun. But, like, that probably isn't the most supportive of one's hormones. But it's like, but you never did anything to then slow down and stop, like, or just go,
Yeah.
okay, right, I've had a really hard, I've had a hard weekend. So what I'm going to do now is next weekend I'm going to go a little bit gentler, and actually I'm going to focus on me, do a bit of self-care, and do all this kind of thing. And that'll kind of just maybe put me on an even kilter again, and then we'll go again in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I never stopped. And not only did I never stop, it's that self-dialogue as well, of that self-talk all the time, of like, not only have I never stopped, but you're a failure if you do stop. And all of that. And it's, so cyclical living, when I learned about what my menstrual cycle was, and I think the more I do this work, the more I think it's so beyond that. It's so beyond learning about what the menstrual cycle is, because actually no two menstrual cycles are the same. So, it's so beyond learning the science and the textbook and what, kind of what everybody, this idea of the four, not this idea, there is 4 phases. It's different to that now. It's like, okay, so what you need to get to know is what is happening in your body, because actually the way that our environment affects us, no menstrual cycle shows up the way textbooks say the menstrual cycle shows up. So actually this exercise is way beyond the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. It's what do I need from day to day, I think, from week to week. So I think even my own practice is kind of developed now, and I do think that learning the science is super important. I think because it's the perfect basis of our knowledge. But I think it goes way beyond that, and what goes beyond that is getting to know yourself and the tools to understand this is how I need to be supported. And that's I'll be as brave, as kind of bold, I suppose, and brazen to say that I do think that is a massive, that women suffering from PMDD, that will be a game changer. I think the more people, the women that I've worked with, and this hasn't been a shift where it's like it's taken years. I've worked with women where they've done this for a couple of months and it's like, fucking hell. And, like, the thing is, well, I think we mentioned it before, but it's that when you come on your period and it's like, oh, fuck, I've come on my period. And when you come on your period, I always say that with PMDD, when you're coming on your period, you 100% know. Like, you are counting down the days when you're coming on your period. And I remember a client of mine voice noted me and she was like, I've just gone to the toilet, I've just come on my period. And I was like, and how do you feel? She, I can't fucking believe it. I cannot believe it. She said, my mum has messaged me to tell you thank you, because I've come on my period and I didn't know that I was coming on my period. And then she was like, I don't think people without PMDD will realise what that means, because I've come on my period. Like, she was like, let me say it again. I've come on my period and I didn't know. She was like, I was a little bit snappy with my boyfriend a couple of days ago, but Casey, that's it. That's it. And that wasn't me going, fucking eat all these foods, because that's not me. I don't want to do that. I want this thing to be just slide into people's lives, and I want it to be as accessible as possible.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's accessible.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like, I just want you to know a little bit about what's happening with your body and be a little bit kinder to yourself. And you can't be kind to yourself until you know what's going on in your body, I don't think. And that was what she did. She just implemented a few things, and 2 months later, she hadn't. I mean, it's going to always evolve, because, and I said, even with me, I would have a few months with no symptoms, and then I'd probably fuck up, and then I would have too many light notes and everything. So it's an ever-evolving thing, and I'm never going to say I've got a perfect cycle, but pretty consistently now, because I'm managing lots of other things that I'm managing that I know that I need to manage, nervous system and everything else, rest. I don't get those symptoms anymore.
That is incredible to hear, because, like, and will hopefully give so many people who are listening to this hope as well. Like there is a way to support yourself. And I think it's so important what you're advocating for, because I think you are right. You need to know about the science, and we need to know that, you know, our cycle, like you mentioned before, the menstrual cycle is different for everybody, and it's not really textbook. And our cycle is very different to a man's 24-hour hormonal cycle. So that in itself shows that we haven't been made to operate the same way in which men can operate. And our lifestyle, which is very, I think we're in a culture of working very hard and doing everything at once. That doesn't work with our bodies. That just isn't right. It doesn't cooperate. So learning about the science behind it is key. But then I think going that step further and learning about how it affects you, because PMDD probably impacts me very differently to how it impacts you, to the next person. And I don't think people realise that. And like, I think if people actually take a step back and go, okay, what triggers my symptoms? What helps my symptoms? The power in that is amazing, because then you just set yourself up for the next few weeks. You can go, okay, what steps am I going to take to make sure that I don't get triggered, to make sure that I'm putting in some me time, and I'm actually changing the way I live through each cycle. I think there's so much power in that.
And that's what and you know, like that's the only way that I know how to live cyclically, because I had PMDD, you know, like, so it's like, that is exactly that is, it's that I always go, like, you need data. I'm a data driven person. I'm process driven. So it's like, well, we need the data. So we need to gather that data. The only way we can gather data is to write shit down or track, right? That's the only way. And this is why it blows my mind when people don't, when I say to people, write a few lines down every single day for 2 months, then come back to me, and then we know what we need to do. We know what we're armed with. We know the patterns. It only takes a couple of months. It only takes a couple, say 2-3 cycles, say 3 cycles. It only takes 3 cycles to know what rough patterns are going on in you know, like, with regards to your cycle. Then come back to me, then let's plan. And to me, that doesn't need to be this massive thing. I honestly, I just think that people find it really daunting. I'm like, what? Oh, it's not daunting. It doesn't need to be scary. It doesn't need to be like, oh, I can't be asked to do that. You know, like, this is the best way that you are going to create I suppose a more balanced, and I suppose the word balance is getting a bit of a negative connotation recently, but that kind of balance, longer term balance, because
100%.
And not balanced by, I'm saying we're going to juggle it all and everyone's going to get the same, you know, like my son's going to get the same attention as my business, and my business, it doesn't work like that. What I mean is just a fucking balanced body, a balanced mind that doesn't feel like we're down here one minute and fucking sky high the next. That's not normal. You know, like, you shouldn't feel like that. You shouldn't feel like your mind, mental health, everything is in the absolute pits and you don't want to leave the world 1 week, and then 2 weeks later you feel fucking on top of the world and you're able to do whatever that's feeling like that is not normal, and that's not okay. So if you don't want to feel like that, fucking write shit down. Write stuff down, because it's gonna be the biggest indicator for you. I've just finished a program. We had a 4-week program, and right at the beginning I said, let me tell you all now, go to Poundland, get a fucking 99p notebook, get a pen. If you want to get a nicer notebook that you want to have a bit of a connection with, feel free to do that, but you don't need it. You need to write down the date, the day of your cycle, and a few lines about how you feel. I'm not asking you for fucking War and Peace. That's all I need you to do. And then do that for 3 months, and I promise you, we'll be able to sort your shit out. It'll be fine.
Yeah, that's incredible. Because also, when you mention patterns as well, I bet there's people that come to you and, like, you look at, you know, what they talk about throughout the month, and when they're in the luteal phase, they might keep talking about their anxiety or their job or one particular, there's a pattern. And so you can dissect that and go, okay, that's something we need to work on.
We said, and it's that thing again of like, we are able, when we see it like that, we're able to see like, is that that's all what women I work with always say, that makes sense now. Because actually it never made sense for so many years. It's just that I hated that job or I hated that person. No, you don't hate that person. You might hate that person or you might hate that job, but let's remember that the other things might be impacting that, and that's fine, and that's absolutely fine. But it's knowing that, and like all of, like, especially right at the beginning when I was kind of verbal diarrheaing this to all my friends, and then they would like put things into practice, and then they would message me going, fucking hell, Case, oh, the kids were driving me insane this weekend, and I've come on my period today. And I'm like, I told you, what have I told you? Look at your tracker, look at your bloody tracker. I've told you how many times, look at your tracker. And then you'll go, okay, kids, right, and that's what I used to do, right? I know that I can't be in the house with my son in certain phases because he just needs to burn energy. I'm better outside as well. If we're confined to the house, I get claustrophobia. He gets too much energy and I'm scared that he's going to smash up the house. So it's like, right, let's eliminate it straight away. We're up at fucking 7 o'clock and we're out the house. We're not coming back until 7 o'clock tonight, because I know that I'll be better when I'm out and about, and I'll have more patience for you because we'll just be able to have fun. And we're going to go to a field and we're going to run around all day. That's what we're going to do, because that's the only way that I know that I'm going to survive today. And that's it.
Yeah, and that's it. It's learning how to survive the day as well, isn't it? It's taking each day as it comes. So obviously you support women through coaching, strategy, self-care tools. Tell us a little bit about Flo and Thrive, which is the business that you founded.
So Flo and Thrive, again, was created off the back of my pure frustration, because I just thought, when I would talk to my friends, I felt like, am I thick? Am I the only one who don't know this stuff? And all of my friends would be like, what? And I just, every time I'd speak to somebody, it would be like, oh my God. And then, like, a few weeks later, I'd get a text message going, I can't believe everything that you said. This just like, it's like real. And yeah, I feel like this, and I've implemented this, and it's changed my life. And I was like, this just needs to be something that everybody knows about. And why don't more people know about it? And at the time, I felt like it was very confined to quite spiritual practices. And I think it's massively changed. You've probably noticed in the last year, I think it's massively changed, that because kind of pre that, it was very, well, what I came across was very moon energy, spiritual stuff. And some of my friends aren't like that. And I would tell them about where I'd got my information that was from quite spiritual people, and almost like put it in a way that was quite like strategic and actually this and this. And they'd be like, oh yeah, get it. Where, like, they don't need the moon stuff and they don't need the other stuff. They just need it like in kind of, and not even they love the detail, but it was like, take out the spirituality stuff, tell me it in black and white, and I'll get it. So that's why I created Flo and Thrive. And, it was just that thing of like, I want to empower women with the knowledge. And my thing is, I don't want to create any kind of dependency. I hate people who do that. So it's like, I want you to be able to learn this knowledge, get what you need from our work together, and go and thrive yourself, because you can. And we all have the answers. It's sometimes just knowing the tools to extract those answers. And that's what I felt that I know now how to do very well. Like, I know now what I need to do to get the tools and to get that knowledge in a way, because it's in us. It's all in us. But I know how to extract that out of women to be able to put that in practice then, and in a strategic way where women are then able to just go out and do life the way they want to do life. Because I think that, again, from a spiritual side, we've become so disconnected because we've lived in such a masculine world for so long. And my thing is, the world's not going to change. We can't change the world. We're not going to be able to change workplaces overnight. We're not going to be able to change the world overnight. So all we can do and control is ourselves. So unfortunately, we need to be able to advocate for ourselves. We can't advocate for ourselves without having knowledge and tools. So let me help you create those tools. Let me help you bridge that gap in knowledge. Then you go out and do the world however you want to do the world. Because I do think that this stems out into so many different things. Like I said, it's a ripple effect into self-esteem, self-confidence, success, productivity. There's so many things that this knowledge helps. Everything's changed in my life since I created and just lived in a more cyclical way and just took my menstrual cycle into consideration a little bit more. Everything changed, literally everything. Like motherhood changed, being the friend that I want to be. I can imagine being the partner, I'm single, obviously. But, like having partners in the future. Looking back, I think, bloody hell, like, I know actually that I fucked certain things up because I shut down. I completely shut down. It's like, I don't want anybody near me. But not knowing what that was when I was 19,
Exactly.
20, 22, you know, like all I would just do would just go, fucking leave me alone, I never want to speak to you again. But I didn't know the tools, and I didn't know how, you know, how the words to be able to communicate that in a way that I just need time to myself right now. So yeah, I think the ripple effect is huge, and that's what I just want to help women. What, you know, women that could tend to come to me know what they want out of life. They know, you know, like they know where they want to go, but they're just really struggling with how to get there. And my kind of the basis of all my work is let's get to know your menstrual cycle, and the answers will come, and you know the support will come as well. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I do.
It's amazing. I think you're doing such amazing work, and I mean, by the sounds of it, based on sort of the conversations that you've had with people, you're changing lives as well, which is just incredible. And so there's a couple of sort of offers that you provide. One is the 3-month mentorship, and one is the Success in Sync session. Can you talk to us about what those both are?
Yeah, so the mentorship is, like I said, it's a minimum of 3 months. Sorry, no, it's three, yeah, but minimum of 3 months, and we have weekly or bi-weekly calls. And basically what that is gathering that data and okay, so what does your cycle look like? What kind of, how in an ideal world, what do you want, how do you want your cycle to show up with you? Because I do have women with PMDD, and then I equally have women that just want to know this stuff, and more so coming from I just want to be, you know, like I've nailed the diet, I've nailed the exercise, but I still don't feel right. That's still, you know, like something still feels missing. So it's that kind of well-being piece as well, and just self-knowledge. I just want to get to know myself, because I think that menopause is very loud, right? Menopause is really loud, and I think that women are starting to understand that. For me personally, I feel like looking at life through a menopause perspective is a firefighting exercise, right? Again, coming from the corporate background, root cause analysis, I'm all for root cause analysis. Let's understand, show me a woman who wasn't in touch and wasn't aware of a menstrual cycle, and show me a woman that has a fucking nightmare with menopause. Because I just think that if you're getting to know yourself a lot earlier on, that just carries on through all the phases of life.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to just stop because you stop bleeding every month. That awareness is just going to be even more when we go through that kind of menopause stage. But you know, if you look at that generation of the menopause generation, they're the women, they're the, you know, I always say they're like that first generation, not first generation, but yeah, kind of first generation feminists who were able to go out and work and were mothering like they didn't have jobs, and jobbing like they weren't mothers, and all that kind of thing. You know, like my mum tells me now, she's 67. I think she was like in her 20s when she could get a credit card and it didn't have to be in my dad's name. You know, like that's fucking mental. That's absolutely mental. So it's like this generation who are really struggling with their menopause and perimenopause have been living a very masculine life, right? They've been very disconnected from their cycle. So let's hopefully, I think that women are cottoning on to that. So a lot of women that are coming to me are, I just want to connect with my body on a different level.
Yeah.
I feel like there's loads of other things that I've kind of worked on, and this feels like the best next step. And they have businesses and they want to be able to work so they're not burning out. You know, it's that kind of stuff that I'm working with. So anyway, sorry. So the mentorship is that. And we're seeing what goals they want to achieve by the end of it, and basically working together, planning, organising, putting a strategy together of how they can do that just completely supports their menstrual cycle. And then if there are issues like PMDD, what I am doing is making sure, well, what we're doing together. It's a very collaborative experience. But if you need to go through the diagnosis process, how you can do that without being dismissed, you know, in the kind of doctor surgery. Because I think that, you know, going back to the beginning, this also helped me be able to advocate for myself. And I think
I
without
bet.
that knowledge, it was, who knows where I would be. I think that's, you know, it was 4 years ago when I was told that, yes, it was that. And yeah, it was just very different. It was, and I think that, yes, there's a lot of talk about it now. It's a lot better. But I don't know where I would be if I didn't go in. Actually, I think it's related to my menstrual cycle. It is, you know. So yeah, I work with women in that sense as well, that just don't really feel like they can advocate for themselves, and they don't know where to start. So it's like, okay, let's put those tools together and let's do this together. I'm not going to be with you in the doctor's surgery, but you'll feel supported enough that you armed with enough of the tools again that you can support
Exactly.
yourself.
And they're confident to be able to go into that room and they know what they're talking about
Exactly.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
you've guided them
And
through that.
yeah, and actually, if they don't want to go down the medical route, then then the other end of it. Let's try and put some kind of plan and strategy together so you can still deal with every day, because you still deserve to, and not everybody wants to go down that route, and that's absolutely fine. But it feels like
Yeah,
it's very one and done, doesn't it? When you go to the doctor's surgery, it's like this is it or that's it.
exactly,
So yeah,
exactly. It
that's where
does. And I speak to so many people who think that or are told that it's the medication route or nothing. But I
exactly.
think you're offering an alternative that is really catered to that person. It's really personal. And it's an alternative which I think we need to hear that there are different options out there. So I think that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so with your business as well and your offerings, I suppose, I know you're really passionate about being accessible, which is one thing that when I came away from speaking to you last, I really love, because there are so many resources out there that just aren't accessible.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about who your offerings, who it's for, who your audience is, and how you do try and be accessible.
Gosh, do you know what? Everybody, my audience, I just want it to be. I suppose that's not the correct business way, is it? You always should have a target audience. But my thing is that everybody deserves to know this stuff. Nobody deserves to be eliminated by knowledge, right? Because they can't afford it. So, and you know, as a business owner, I'm still trying to see what that looks like and trying to find the happy medium, because you know I still have bills to pay and a son
Yeah,
to feed, right? So it's really hard. And again, I don't get it perfect all the time, and I'm trying to make that work. But what I try to do as often as possible is, where I can, give things for as cheap as possible. But social media, I do a lot of things through social media. Have a recent offering that I'm launching now, and it's kind of, from an affordability perspective, there's going to be 3 tiers of said offering, and the offering is all around, I suppose, the tools that I put together to help my PMDD, but actually it can be amazing for anybody just wanting to get to know their own cycle. So that's called the flow method. And like I said, there's going to be 3 tiers. So the kind of lower, the tier 1 is the workbook. I've actually got it here. So the workbook is so yeah, you probably can't see it. So it's a kind of very detailed working book that's got all of the information in there with regards to, you know, like what we talked about, the science. So you know, all the science stuff to do with the menstrual cycle, but then the next, I suppose, natural step is, okay, so how does that really show up in me? Because like we've said, that's more important than the science. I always say read the science and then throw the book out the window, because it means fuck all, because it shows completely different in all of us. And then the final bit is that, okay, so now I know this science, now I know how it shows up in my own body, how can I adjust life so I'm feeling supported and I'm helping myself, and therefore I'm helping my hormones and my cycle. So it goes kind of from that tier, from the workbook, and then I have that I'm releasing later on in the year, so it's like a self-taught online course that's coming out in September. And then the kind of tier 3 is the program, the group program. But then that kind of idea flows into my 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 mentorship, my kind of one-to-one work as well. Like that is the
right.
premise of everything that I do. So it kind of goes from self-taught workbook to self-taught course that is a lot more detailed, with me kind of giving I've got lessons kind of per se on there, and then the group program, and then my kind of one-to-one stuff. So yeah, how I've tried to create this business is that someone can buy something for 45 quid up to, you know, if you want more that tailored one-to-one stuff and you've got bigger budgets, then great. So I'm doing that. That's kind of the one side of the business. I also have products as well. So I talk about a cyclical toolkit within the flow method. And the whole idea of the cyclical toolkit is that you can lean on tools. So sometimes that can be self-care, and actually that's what helped me a lot, was self-care. Was, you know, I think that self-care really gets a bit of a negative rep, like it's just a bath and that's going to cure everything, but actually no, a bath did help me a lot. And magnesium salts helped me a lot, and aromatherapy oils helped me a lot. It just completely centered me, and it really eased my nervous system.
Yeah.
So I've created products as well. So I have aromatherapy blend. So I'm a qualified aromatherapist. I've been an aromatherapist for many years. So I have blends that support the different phases of the menstrual cycle. I also have bath salts. So yeah, so I'm trying, and they're on, you know, the lower end, more accessible information as well. I have lots of freebies on my website. I've got my blog on my website that gives lots of free information. I also give talks as well. So yeah, I'm trying to just basically talk about this shit as much as possible in as many
Yeah,
ways as possible, so people just get it and people know that. And I think particularly with PMDD, I don't want this just to be about PMDD, because I think that women can also have months that feel really bad, right? And I don't want them to just presume
yeah,
it's PMDD, because sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're just having a really bad month and you also deserve
yeah,
to know how to get yourself out of that. So that, I think it's really important that all women are made aware of this, and it's not just a kind of more extreme version, a more extreme, I suppose, pool of women that are suffering from PMDD. I think it's just important for everybody to know their body. I
yeah.
think at its core, I think we've been robbed that we aren't taught it in school. So yeah. Yeah, so I'll try and get into all. Well, I'm trying to now get into as many organisations as possible, and trying to do this stuff with, you know, alongside occupational health, and work with charities as well. So I'm actually running 3 sessions over the next 3 weeks with a local. The women who use the service are they have addiction issues. They are homeless nurses as well, but they're mums. So yeah, so they use the service. So I'm going in to do a few talks with them, and have been very kindly donated from day period products. They've kindly donated me loads of products, so I can take a load of products in with me.
Oh,
So that's great
wow.
as well. So yeah, I'm trying to do more of that, all whilst, you know,
Juggling being a
raising a child.
parent. Yeah,
Yeah.
just doing it all. You're doing it all. No, what you're doing is amazing though, and I love the accessibility side of things. You know, there's something for everyone, and I just love how personal your offering is as well. You really get to know the person that has come to you and asked for help, and it's not a judgmental space at all. It's a safe space, and
Absolutely.
you recognize that everyone's different because they are. And I think a lot of people's problems when they go to a healthcare professional seeking help is they just get painted under the same brush, and that's just not the case. And that's really slowing down our progress of getting the support that we need. So I think what you're doing is just incredible. And before we finish, where can people, because I know people will want to connect with you, where can people connect with you and learn more about Flow and Thrive?
Yeah, so I'm mostly on Instagram. I'm trying to juggle more than one platform, but it's finding, you know, it's difficult.
Time.
Yeah. So mostly on Instagram, and it's just at Flo and Thrive. So it's FLO and Thrive, THRIVE. And yeah, so I've also have a free kind of beginners bundle on my website, and then you join my mailing list if you want the bundle. And that includes like a tracker, it includes like a menstrual cycle beginner's guide as well, and some journal prompts that I kind of started out with trying to get to know my own cycle. So it's got some journal prompts in there as well. And then I send out weekly emails, just a little bit of a chat, do you know what I mean? With people. Catching up, and if anything's kind of come up in the press news, so yeah, I'll kind of speak to my mailing list as well about different things, tools and stuff, and they get first dibs as well, so they'll get first dibs on discount for when the workbook releases as well at the end of this month. So yeah, there's lots of things, but flowandthrive.com and Instagram is mostly the places that I'm present.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. And I 100% urge people that are listening to this to reach out,
Thank you.
and I think it can work for anyone, and it's just a really good tool to use to navigate those really tricky times, but also not just PMDD times, like you said, it's just difficult times. We're all going to have really hard periods, pardon the pun, that aren't because of PMDD, and so having that toolkit, like you said, is just going to be a game changer. So just thank you for everything that you're doing. Keep doing the amazing work that you're doing. And thank you for coming on this episode as well.
No, thank you for having me, and you're doing amazing things as well, so thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Well, take care. Thank you.